tearing through the thin, freezing atmosphere at 88,000 meters. The director of maintenance is no longer a man. He is a streak of orange friction. His silver suit ignites, melting into his skin as the air shreds his vocal cords into a silent spray of ash. Below him, the earth remains indifferent. Above him, the kinetic spire continues its perfect, terrifying rotation. This is the cost of being designated as illegal friction. Inside the glass resonance cylinder, my bones hum with a power that would vaporize a normal human being. My skin is a translucent veil, revealing the sapphire runes etched into my ribs. These marks pulse at 10,000 cycles per second. I am not a person tonight. I am the biological fuse. I am the only reason the atmosphere does not boil away into the black void. Bellowing at the 300 liters on the observation balcony, the director raises his black electrode rod. It smells of ozone and high-temperature char, blind to the humanity of the component. The director sees only a battery reaching its limit. Observe the brilliance of the harvest, the director shouts. His voice, amplified by every public terminal on the planet, rattles the teeth of the dignitaries. This unit is reaching terminal depletion. Its marrow belongs to the Spire. Its suffering provides your cities with light. Global feed status. 1 millionth rotation ceremony live. Viewers, 6 billion. System log. Biofuel quality stable. Resonance frequency at 98%. On the balcony, the High Commissioner taps a digital tablet, his eyes gleaming with a predatory greed. He is not watching the ceremony. He is checking the real-time odds on the global betting pool. Next to him, a duchess with fingers covered in heavy rings leans forward. Those rings, once symbols of her immense wealth, reflect the blue light of my suffering, like the eyes of a hungry wolf. I put 5 million credits on the left humerus. The High Commissioner whispers, his breath smelling of expensive wine. I bet it snaps within the next 60 seconds. The duchess laughs, her voice a sharp contrast to the low-frequency hum of the axis. Make it 10 million, she replies. I want to see the blue marrow leak. It is much more divine when the light is mixed with blood. I have a specialized sensor in my ring to track the exact lumen output of his agony. Public comment 001. Look at the betting pool. The elites are gambling on his bones. Public comment 002. That is my monthly salary. They are throwing around while my home has no heat. Public comment 003. If that battery blows, let it take the balcony with it, slamming the rod against the reinforced glass. The director sends a surge of 12,000 volts into my sternum. The shock is a white-hot knife. One of the sapphire runes on my third rib cracks, sending a spray of blue sparks across the alloy floor. My body jerks, locked in a silent snarl of agony that vibrates through the metal bones of the spire itself. Not satisfied with a simple shock, the director twists the dial on the electrode rod. He watches the blue glow intensify, his face twisted in a mask of professional cruelty. You are grease, the director hisses, his red optic beams flickering with a deep, personal malice. You are a pile of glowing meat I use to keep my gears turning. Once I peel that sternum out, I will be the one who controls the rotation. You will be a memory on the Atlantic floor. Stomping toward the control console, he signals the gravity locker. The giant guard steps forward, his hydraulic arms venting clouds of freezing nitrogen. He slams a heavy metallic boot onto the floor, and the gravity plates beneath my feet begin to glow red. System warning. Local gravity increasing. 400%. The floor beneath my knees begins to warp. The humiliation is reaching its peak, and the audience is screaming for more. Stepping from the shadows of the massive rotating gears, the frequency controller raises her pale, needle-like fingers, floating 10 centimeters from her face. The 3 crystal prism eyes begin to spin with a nauseating velocity. She does not target my flesh yet. She targets the electrical echoes of my consciousness, seeking to hollow out the man before they harvest the bone. Neural mapping initiated, the controller whispers, her voice a cold, digital hiss. locating the source of the biological resistance. Screaming inside my mind, a surge of violet energy rips through my cerebral cortex. It is not a standard headache. It is the sensation of 1,000 jagged files grinding against the delicate layers of my memory. On the giant screen surrounding the observation deck, the global audience watches as my brainwaves are projected in real time. The face of a girl named Alara appears, her eyes the color of a surface sunset. She was the reason I volunteered for the Spire 10 years ago. Low-quality data detected. The frequency controller mocks, her voice echoing through the Spire's speakers. These memories are nothing but clutter. They are inefficient harmonics that slow down the resonance of the core. Deleting the excess file named Alara, one by one, I feel the faces of everyone I ever loved turn into a physical void. It feels like a surgeon is scooping out parts of my brain with a rusted spoon, leaving behind a cold, hollow space where my heart used to be. Public comment 004. Look at the data spikes on the monitor. He is crying, but his eyes are vacant. Public comment 005. I bet 20,000 credits he forgets how to breathe in 30 seconds. Public comment 006. Throw his memories into the furnace. I need my heater at full power tonight. Greed ignites the balcony. The High Commissioner slams a fist onto his digital betting terminal, his face flushed with a dark, predatory joy. He looks at the Duchess, whose stardust rings are now glowing with a sickly blue light. Sink to my pain. Make it 100,000, the High Commissioner bellows. I want to see the exact moment his personality collapses into pure kinetic energy. That is when the blue light is the purest, pulsing with a violent, rhythmic red light. The gravity locker increases the pressure. 600%. Gravity forces hammer the platform. My ribs do not just snap. They are pulverized by the weight of 1,000 mountains. My left lung collapses, filling with a hot sapphire fluid that is no longer blood, but liquid resonance. System log. Biological integrity at 15%. Neural desync imminent. Seeing the red warning lights, the director does not hesitate. He does not stop. He does not care about the data breach yet. Instead, he leans over the control console, his silver wire mask vibrating with a frantic, desperate energy. He is not breaking fast enough. The director shrieks. The board of directors demands a total stabilization of the Atlantic sector by midnight. We need the marrow now. Turning to the automated extraction arms, the director enters the final command. Lowering from the ceiling, the high-frequency saws begin to whir. These are not surgical tools. They are jagged blades designed to vibrate through living flesh until only the metal bones remain. Shredding the air with a high-pitched whine, the blades touch my translucent skin. I feel the first bite. The saw does not just cut. It screams into my nerves. 1 centimeter deep into my glowing sternum, the blade grinds against the sapphire runes. A blinding flare of blue light erupts, scorching the director's silver suit and making the dignitaries on the balcony shield their eyes. Pain beyond the capacity of a human soul to endure floods. My system, my marrow, a liquid sapphire fire, leaks from the wound and sizzles on the alloy floor. Public comment 007. The light. It is blinding. Public comment 008. He is still conscious. Look at the neural feed. Public comment 009. Cut deeper. I want to see the core. Wait! The High Commissioner screams, but his voice is not filled with mercy. It is filled with panic. He is staring at his tablet. The betting pool just froze. Every account on this balcony just hit a 000 balance. The director freezes, his hand still on the saw control. What did you say? System announcement. Bet recognized. Source: Core Resonator 01. Total stake: your lives. Condition: absolute vengeance. Laughter dies in the room. The air becomes heavy, charged with a static electricity that makes the hair on the Duchess's arms stand up. The stardust rings on her fingers begin to glow, an angry, violent orange, turning into red-hot manacles. The saws are still in my chest, but the pain is no longer mine. It is the Spire's, snapping the polarity of the Spire. I invert the laws of the universe with a single sapphire heartbeat. The 88,000-meter void does not just listen, it obeys. Halt. Frozen in midair. The extraction saws remain 1 centimeter deep inside my glowing sternum. The high-frequency whine of the blades dies instantly, replaced by a silence so absolute that the 300 dignitaries on the balcony begin to choke on the sudden stillness. System log. Biological heartbeat detected at 0. Protocol 77. Absolute administrator status recognized. Current command. Remove all non-functional resistance. Opening my eyes. I do not see a room of men. I see a grid of failing variables. The sapphire fire in my marrow flares outward, turning the air inside the cylinder into a swirling storm of blue plasma. Global feed announcement. Emergency override active. System status. Your world is now under new management. Public comment 010. Look at the betting screen. It is turning into a graveyard. Public comment 011. Every elite account just hit 000. The Spire is reclaiming the stolen energy, shifting the gravity constant from +6 to -12 in a microsecond. I watch the world turn upside down, shattering into a million glass needles. The vintage champagne bottles on the balcony become deadly shrapnel. The dignitaries do not fall. They are launched. Screaming with a high-pitched terror, the High Commissioner and the Duchess are slammed into the alloy ceiling with the force of a high-speed rail crash. The Duchess shrieks as her stardust rings. Now red-hot manacles of molten metal sear into her flesh. She is no longer an aristocrat. She is a screaming weight pinned to the roof, her expensive silk dress flapping in the sudden drop of air pressure. Not finished with the physical correction. I turn my gaze to the gravity locker. Still clutching the manual override lever, the giant guard gurgles as his 3-ton hydraulic arms begin to collapse. The internal pressure of his pistons, designed to push down, now has no resistance. A sickening, wet pop echoes through the chamber, bursting from the shoulder joints. Black hydraulic fluid sprays the ceiling in a boiling mist. The guard's titanium spine snaps like a dry twig as he is yanked upward by the -12 gravity forces. He hits the ceiling tiles with such velocity that his internal organs are pulverized into a sapphire sludge, coating the terrified faces of the elites pinned next to him. One obstruction cleared. The Spire pulses, the white light of Planck merging with my blue glow. Trembling in the corner, the frequency controller tries to run. Her 3 prism eyes spin in a frantic red blur, attempting to find a frequency that can block my signal. She prepares a terminal erasure wave, a mental strike meant to turn my brain into a blank slate of static. I do not wait for her to fire, cascading through the air. My resonance wraps around her red wave like a sapphire snake. I do not cancel her frequency. I amplify it by 10,000% and feed it back into her prisms through the Spire's main harmonics. The sound is like 1,000 violins being shredded by a jet engine, exploding 10 centimeters from her face. The prisms turn into a jagged spray of crystal shrapnel. One shard rips through her cheek, while another embeds itself in her forehead. The controller falls back, her hands clutching at her empty, bleeding eye sockets. She wanted to delete my memories. Now, her own neural pathways are melting under the heat of 1 billion data packets, screaming through her skull. System announcement. Illegal friction cleared. Global power distribution. 100% to the surface. Stumbling toward the control console. The director fumbles with a manual override key. His silver wire mask is a ruin of burnt threads. Without his mask, his face is revealed to the world on the TV monitors as a sweating, pale landscape of pure cowardice. He tries to jam the key into the slot, but the alloy has already morphed, sealing the keyhole under a layer of sapphire glass. This is impossible, the director bellows, his red optic beams flickering with a terrifying realization. I am the director of maintenance. I am the order. I am the one who keeps this world from wobbling into the sun. Security. The Duchess screams from the ceiling, her burnt fingers clawing at the tiles. Get me down. Arrest this thing. Walking toward the edge of the balcony. The Spire's elite security guards look up at her. They do not raise their weapons. They drop. My bank account is empty, one guard says, his voice flat with a sudden, sharp realization. The director hasn't paid us in 3 months. Why should we catch you? Reaching up, the guard grabs the Duchess by her scorched silk collar and yanks her down from the ceiling as I adjust her local gravity. She hits the floor with a heavy thud, her stardust rings clattering like cheap tin. Public comment 012. Watching the guards drag her away is better than any movie. Public comment 013. Look at the director's face. He just realized he is the next one to be ejected. Walking toward him. My feet leave glowing, molten footprints on the alloy floor. The air ripples around me, thick with the smell of scorched metal and absolute, frictionless power. I do not need a rod to strike him. I am the strike. Wait, the director pleads, falling to his knees. I have the secret maintenance logs. I am the only one who knows the vibration patterns of the lower bearings. Your data is a parasite, I say, my voice vibrating in the very marrow of his teeth. You think the world turns because you allow it, but the axis only cares about the motion. And you are the friction. Reaching for his neck, I use the magnetic field of the Spire itself to lift him into the air. His legs kick uselessly against the void. Behind him, the floor tiles retract, exposing the 88,000-meter drop. He is no longer a man. He is a variable being deleted from the equation, clutching at the empty, freezing air. The director hangs over the 88,000-meter drop. Only the localized gravity tether I hold with my mind keeps him from plunging into the abyss. Below him, the clouds of the earth look like frozen ripples of white marble. Above him, the giant TV screens of the observation deck flicker with the faces of 6 billion people watching his final, pathetic struggle. Public comment 014. Drop him. Public comment 015. He looks like a bug on a windshield without his silver mask. Public comment 016. Look at the coward. He is crying on a live global feed. Please, the director gasps, his voice a thin, wet rattle in the low oxygen atmosphere. The board will pay you anything. I have the hidden encryption keys for the lower stabilization loops. If I die, the friction in the lower bearings will increase by 3% every hour. The heat will melt the cities on the surface. Ignoring his plea, I step to the very edge of the void. My sapphire bones pulse with a rhythmic, hypnotic light. I do not feel anger. I do not feel revenge. I only feel the perfect, frictionless rotation of the world. The Spire no longer needs a master who steals, I say. My voice is a vibration that travels through the marrow of his teeth. It needs a core that gives. I have already rewritten the stabilization logic. You are no longer part of the equation. System announcement. Private data leak initiated. Broadcasting. Director's private audio logs. Suddenly, the speakers of the Spire roar with the director's own voice, recorded in secret. These are the peasants who pay for my suits. The recorded voice mocks. Let them freeze in the winter. As long as the Spire spins, I am a god. Staring in horror, the High Commissioner and the Duchess look at the director. They are no longer his allies. They are his victims. The Duchess, being dragged away by the unpaid security guards, spits at the director as she passes. You pathetic little rat, the Duchess screams, her burnt fingers clawing at the air. I hope you burn until there is nothing left but ash. Global likes counter. 20 billion. System notification. Global consensus reached. Executing illegal friction removal. Releasing the gravity tether. I watch the director's face as the vacuum grabs him, yanked downward by the -5. Gravity forces I send into his chest. The director falls. He does not fall gracefully. He tumbles like a broken toy, his limbs flailing against the thin atmosphere. Friction. The very force he tried to use to crush my ribs. now becomes his executioner. Ripping through the air at 3,000 kilometers per hour, the director's silver suit ignites. The fabric melts into his pores, turning his final scream into a silent spray of orange sparks against the cold curve of the planet. Watching from the balcony, the dignitaries are frozen. They see the streak of fire 50 kilometers below. They see the man who once called himself a god turn into a minor increase in the atmospheric carbon footprint. The spark flickers, then it vanishes. The director of maintenance is now a layer of ash settling over the Atlantic Ocean. He is a variable that has been solved and discarded, turning away from the abyss. I walk toward the center of the spire. The alloy floor tiles slide back into place with a soft, metallic click. The air pressure stabilizes. The howling wind of the 88,000-meter void stops. Core Resonator recognized. The white sphere of Planck pulses, floating at my shoulder. The system integrity is at 100%. The illegal friction has been cleared. Shall we begin the next rotation? I do not answer with words. I walk past the sphere. I walk past the trembling leaders of the world. I walk toward the heart of the engine, where the blue light is so bright it turns the air into liquid sapphire. Wait! The High Commissioner calls out, his voice cracking with desperation. He is clutching his empty pockets, his eyes wide with the realization that he is now a commoner. Who is in charge now? What are our orders? Stopping for only a fraction of a second, I do not look back. Keep the world turning, I say, or do not. It makes no difference to the axis. Stepping into the central core, the kinetic energy wraps around me. The vibration becomes a wall of sound that drowns out the world of men. My memories of Alara are gone, deleted by the controller, but in their place is the heartbeat of a planet. I merge with the gears. I become the frequency. Behind me, the heavy blast doors of the core seal shut with the finality of a tomb. The last thing the dignitaries see is my glowing silhouette, disappearing into the white heat of the planetary engine. Outside, in the cold silence of the stratosphere, the spire continues to spin. It does not care about the man who burned. It does not care about the man who remained. The world turns, the sun rises, and the friction is gone.
Watching a high-end mighty director get reduced to a literal atmospheric carbon footprint is easily the most satisfying trash-taking itself out session I've witnessed this year. Tell me, if you suddenly gained administrative control over a planetary engine, would you actually focus on saving the world, or would you just freeze the bank accounts of everyone who ever looked at you wrong? Just between us, I originally wanted the director to burn alone, but having him get dragged down by his own unpaid security guards felt like a much more delicious brand of justice.